All right, I think we are live finally. Good Sunday. Thank you guys for joining me. This is my very first live stream broadcast. I'm a little nervous, but here we go. This began yesterday as a 30-minute video, kind of giving a shout out and respect to all of you who have supported me and over the years to get to this point, and covered quite a few topics. But got 30 minutes within the video, finished it up, and went to post it, and it disappeared. So I spent another 30 minutes doing the same exact thing, and the same thing happened. And then I cut that video down to 12 to 15 minutes and tried to post it, and still it just completely disappeared. So I figured that I'll go ahead and stream live and say everything that I said in those 30 minutes, and hopefully it'll just be out there and done with it. Um, so here we are. I'm in my daughter's bedroom. Check out the owl and the colors on the wall. Filming this, I do expect her to run in the room at some point and ask me to change a cartoon or do something dad-like. So bear with me if that happens. Gotta take care of the children. But yeah, anyways, I'll go ahead and get started. Let's talk about what's been going on. First off, I want to say thank you, everyone on YouTube who has been tuning into the channel and commenting and keeping the energy going on some of the videos. Asking questions, posting comments. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to respond and to engage as much as I would like to or have been able to in the past. I had a recent death in the family. My sister passed away over Easter, and it's kind of thrown me in a bit of a tailspin as far as like being able to address some of the questions and comments that have been going on. But I definitely appreciate you guys putting the energy out there, and when there's time, I will respond or yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for, like I said, being here. On a real positive side, we went public with launching our HAMA, which is historical African martial arts group community. We announced it on Facebook, and we've received like a lot of support from people. And our YouTube page now has 3,000 subscribers. Give yourselves an applause. Thank you guys for tuning in and supporting me and supporting what we're doing here. Means a lot, and I would imagine over the as we go on, things will get better, more organized, more information, and I wanted to put the call out for you. If you're interested in being part of this movement that we're creating, if you're interested in historical African martial arts, then contact me, and we can talk about setting up a study group in your area, or you guys can always welcome to come to Austin, Texas, to come and train with us, or I'd be happy to travel to wherever you are and show you what we're working on. The idea is to build a community, to build a support group where we can you know push the research even further. There's only so much that I can do as one person, but if we had more people in the field training and researching, then we'd really, in 5 to 10 years, we really see like a lot of growth in this community or in this field. So if you're interested in, like I said, creating a study group in your area, contact me. I already have uh, 2 videos up on some basic guards and on basic strikes, and then I'll just kind of keep building those lessons in. I mean, it's free. It's not costing you anything except for your time and your attention. So if you're able, please do that. So, anyways, kind of skipping over my outline, but I wanted to go back to what I had planned to say first. I should say second. Um, Back to support. So if you guys could, if you look at the first videos we posted, we've come a long way, and that is largely due to the efforts of many people, and some people you may not see, in front of the camera. A lot of times they're behind the camera or elsewhere. So I wanted to give a nod and a salute to them, because I wouldn't be able to do this if it weren't for their sacrifice and for their support. First off, definitely to my family, to my wife and life partner. I want to say thank you for putting up with crazy Don Quixote swordman, and I've learned a lot from just the way you instruct and the way that you teach. I learned a lot about being a teacher from you. Um, and big respect to my children, to the girls, to Layla, Fadia, Apollonia, and Sochi. You guys give me the momentum to keep going and forces me to better myself so that I can do better things for you guys. So thank you for that. And big respect to my mom, who, as a single mother, she encouraged for me literacy and instilled a love of learning and a love of books and reading for me when I was younger. So respect to moms, and Miss Joanne Blackerby of Spirit Fitness. For a couple of years, she carried us over her back and gave us the foundation to really launch what we're doing now. A lot of the footage that we have in our earlier videos are shot in her facility, and she really gave us a lot of support and uh, allowed us to build, from being like just theories and thoughts to actually putting it into practice. So Miss Joanne with Spirit Fitness, thank you a lot. Respect to my brothers in Cry Havoc, action choreography. That would be Dashade Moonbeam, um, Brian Tree Fisher, and John Hoodness Gracious Satberry with The Chosen Ones. If you're interested in lightsaber combat and all things that have to do with Star Wars, go check out The Chosen Ones, headed by John Satberry. They're doing like really cool, amazing things here in Austin, Texas. Also, my brother Fred Ford, who's like a mentor to me, just kind of helped keep me grounded and moving forward, and supporting me in times when I didn't really have much or have an idea which way to go. Fred Ford, Tau Video, and Marshall Exchange. Thank you for the support and for the push, and I'll be seeing and training with you soon. Um, Also, long list, guys. Sorry. Also, I had the person in mind. Oh yes, how could I forget? Topher Bradfield. Topher is the man. If you are in Austin, Texas, or if you have heard of Camp Half Blood, you should know Topher Bradfield. If you haven't, look him up. Actually, go open up the Percy Jackson book in the acknowledgments, and you'll see Topher Bradfield's name in it, and then you'll get what I'm saying. Wonderful man. He puts on a literary camp here in Austin, Texas, called Camp Half Blood. And a few years ago, he hired myself and some more members of our choreography group to be a part of Camp Half Blood. And that really solidified the ground for me, teaching sword fighting with the kids and going out there. Really, really gave me a really strong platform to build from. So Topher, thank you, and Camp Half Blood, thank you. A few more things, guys. There's too many people to mention, but I do want to mention my supporters on Patreon, just for being there and contributing funds to the cause. Big respect to Ross Luxinger. Ross is an old student of mine. He's also an author. He's written a book about sports at the University of Texas. Check him out, Ross Luxinger. Also, Kirk Johnson from New York. He's a wonderful dude, wonderful author, writes speculative fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, based in African context. He has a few short stories that are published. I'm not sure in which book, but I'll definitely figure out which anthology it is, and I'll post it to this video, in the information of this video. So yeah, Kirk Johnson, Stant. I'm going to mess up your last name, but Stant Litor, Stant Litor, or Stant Litore, which one? I'm not sure, brother, but thank you for offering your support. Stant is also an author. You can check out some of his books. If you go to Stant, it's spelled STANTLITORE.com. Also, a sci-fi fantasy writer, and also, I've never met him in person, but he's, contributed to our cause. So thank you, Stant, for doing that. Also, my soul sister and massage therapist, holistic healer here in Austin, Texas, Miss Kashida. We'll see you in Capoeira class soon, hopefully. And then my brother in arms, Phil Canzano with Lone Star Sword Play Guild. Phil came down here to Austin, where he was training Italian longsword with Greg Mel, um, and he brought the longsword, the Italian longsword tradition here to Austin, Texas. If you guys don't know, Austin has a very diverse sword community. We have German longsword, um, I guess I should say historical European martial arts, both taught through HEMA affiliates and through ARMA. Of course, there's SEA and there's all the other LARP. I'm not saying SEA is LARP, but the live action role playing groups like Amp Guard and Dago here, pronouncing that probably wrong here in Austin. There's also, I just discovered a guy that's teaching combat Chinese Dao, which is the broadsword here in Austin, Texas. There's also a lady who teaches Cossack Saber and Sistema here in Austin, Texas. There's of course Kenjutsu and Kali Eskrima. Yeah, there's a lot of sword fighting going on here in Austin, Texas, and Phil, thank you for being here and bringing the Italian tradition to Austin. Moving along, director, martial artist, great guy, professor in philosophy. This would be Seth Barton, student and friend of mine. Yeah, also one of our supporters on Patreon. Benjamin, the Beast Reddick with Ballistic Blade. These guys are Benjamin is a martial artist, fight choreographer, director extraordinaire. He has a fight choreography group here in Austin called Ballistic Blade. Check them out. They have an up and coming feature called Chinaman Wu Ping, and he is starring, directing, and producing that amongst other things. Check out Benjamin Reddick the second. I'm sorry, at Ballistic Blade with Ballistic Blade, I should say. And our newest Patreon supporter would be Gabriel Penn. I've never met this gentleman in person, but on behalf of Seth Decote and Austin Warrior Arts, I thank you. If you guys are interested in supporting us through Patreon, I'll leave a link on how to do that. And anyways, I'm going to keep it moving and going on to the next topic. So a few weeks ago, I was asked by colleagues in the African martial arts community, like, why is there a need to reconstruct African martial arts, because African martial arts already exist. Tuareg sword fighting is a thing. It still exists. It's still practiced. There are many traditions that are still practiced on the continent, and there's, it's their descendant arts practiced in the diaspora. So why is there a need to reconstruct these arts, and especially use like a template or a model like the HEMA's model to do so? Now, my response to that is, for me and for my group, and where I would like for us to go, and for what I need as a martial artist, and what I'm looking to achieve, is with the living tradition. The living traditions offer a window, a platform, a base in which to, better understand how the culture, um, where the evolution of their fighting skills are at this point today. So if I look at Tuareg sword fighting or Zulu stick fighting or something, like capoeira, it reflects more where we're at, where that said culture is today, maybe more so than it does, say, 100 or 200 years ago. So capoeira, for example, if I wanted to learn how to fight with capoeira as they were fighting in the 19th century, um, the tradition of learning capoeira now would give me a foundation and a base to do that. At the same time, I'd have to step outside of the context of traditional capoeira in order to really know how to apply um, how it was applied in a fight. I couldn't attain that knowledge just by staying within solely within that traditional context. And I'm not saying that we're doing away with the living traditions, but the living traditions have to be taken into a different context. They were these arts were built on the battlefield, so therefore the pressure tester is going to be the battlefield. It's going to be going back to a period of time when you had to live or die by, you know, your skill at arms. And although for Africa, our Middle Ages or historic or heroic period didn't really end until the 19th century, um, still it's not the same. It's not the same animal. Like if I compare where we're at, where the sword fighting skills are today, it's not the same animal as say like in the 14th century, when it's like, yeah, there was a lot of fighting going on. There's a lot of warfare going on at in close quarters. Um, also with Tuareg sword play, that's one of my main focuses because one, I have a deep love and respect for Tuareg culture. Um, Two, the Tuareg were renowned as like swordsmen, and it's not to say that that's the only tradition that's available, but it is one of the more better documented ones. So when we're looking at we're using Tuareg sword fighting as a way to get a glimpse of how not only the Tuareg fought with Blaze, but how maybe their neighbors fought with Blaze, the people they interacted with. Um, you know, should say, yeah, how they interact, people that they interacted with, used the swords as well. So it becomes larger than just the cultural context of the art itself. Um, so yeah, going back to my capoeira reference. So if I wanted to understand how to fight with capoeira, just like as a modern, like in a ring or an MMA or in a street or an MMA situation, I'd have to take it outside of the cultural context. I'd have to field test it against people that don't train the art, that are not coming from that same perspective, in order to have a true understanding of how to use it as a combat art. Going back even further, we know that capoeira descends from Central African fighting arts, and we know that these arts were also used as a way to prepare warriors for warfare, training them either to dodge, slip, and evade strikes from swords, spears, and any other like edge impact weapons. But training in traditional capoeira can give me clues and hints to maybe how that was expressed, but it's not the same thing as me um, knowing how it was done in the 16th century. We can take that and deconstruct it and use it as a base to kind of build to further our understanding, but it doesn't supplant the fact that we need to put ourselves back into that context, and that's what we're doing. We need to put ourselves back into the context um, of the 14th century to better understand how the warriors fought then. And Tuareg swordplay is a good way to start. Any other sword fighting tradition in that area or any area in Africa is a good place to start, but it doesn't stop there. Zulu stick fighting is another example. It's a cultural practice. It's hardcore, not taking anything away from Zulu stick fighting. You play at your risk, and people get knocked out, people get hurt doing it. At the same time, it would be foolish of me to assume that Zulu stick fighting is the exact same thing as Zulu warfare, that this is exactly how the Zulu army engaged others. It gives us a base. It gives us somewhere to build from, but we have to put ourselves into the context. And that's kind of what HAMA does. It takes these living traditions and we try to go even further back. Anyways, this is what I envision. I think the model that HEMA uses is a really good one, and it's necessary for African martial arts. It's not the only way of doing things, We definitely encourage interacting with people that are part of the culture, that have experience in these arts or have observed these arts to further our understanding. And we definitely want to create networking, cross-cultural networking in order to draw attention to these rich cultural gems that have survived through colonialism and time, especially in an area where it's not a lot of writing. So that's kind of our one of our goals. It's not just to stay within this one culture, but to understand the region in its entirety. And that's one thing I really liked about the HEMA model is that when you're learning, when you're reconstructing, you're not just pulling from the manuals. You're actually, I guess you could, but you're actually looking at that period like a forensic scientist, or like a historian or an archaeologist. You're looking at everything around that as clues, as hints to help you better understand, you know, what you're reconstructing. Everything is tested, pressure tested, either by sparring, um, either by test cutting, by creating accurate um, tools to train with to get accurate data. I think all these things, that model is a great model for any martial artist who's looking to interpret um, a more esoteric system. I mean, this can be applied, and I'm seeing it's being applied to, like, Chinese arts, where it's like you have sword forms, but we don't really understand how these forms apply to combat. For us, well, in Chinese martial arts, you have your forms, or in Japanese arts or Okinawan arts, you have your katas. For us, we have our sword dances that we use to teach us, or to get information about how the blade was handled and how the body was moved, and we have to do some interpretation. It doesn't mean that everything we come up with is 100% correct, which is another good thing. It's none of us can actually sit on a throne and say, hey, I have all the information, I have all the knowledge. you know you can't do it that way because you don't have all the knowledge. And no, you can't really I can't really say that. I have my interpretations based on my understanding, and what you're seeing and what everyone else is seeing and what I'm seeing is my evolution with it. Where I'm at today may be somewhere totally different, a year or so from now. And I'm okay with that, because you're watching my evolution, as opposed to, like, here's a in product wrap for you here. No, you're watching my growth as a individual and as a martial artist, and then my group's growth. And I'm okay with that. And that means sometimes we may come under fire, from people who have a different way of doing things, but that's okay, because we're being honest, we're being open, and we're willing to pressure test what we're doing. So, yeah, I hope I covered that, touched on that a little bit, but let me move on. All right. So, we did Africa. So let's talk about swords. All right. So check this out. I have here. Wait for the video to catch up with me here. Okay. Let's talk about African swords. So right here, at first sight, apart from the scabbard and such, you'll see this blade and say, oh, okay, wow, this looks like, you know, a knight sword. It looks like a European sword, you know. This is, in fact, a German blade. But the sword is an African sword. This right here is a Takouba. Takouba is a I'm not exactly sure of the origin of the term. It could be a Tamashek term. It could be it could come from another language in the area, but it means sword. And it's the term that the Tuareg used to refer to their swords. Um, yeah, Takoba, you see it amongst the Tuareg, amongst the Fulani, the Hausa. It's pretty much like the an iconic weapon in the Sahel and in the Sudan, whereas this broadsword, cross guard, um, So which brings me to the next thing about African weapons. So when we think about African weapons, we typically think of blades that are very exotic shaped, and um, the functionality of it is questionable. Um, they're beautiful, but a lot of collectors debate just kind of how functional some of these swords are with their really sinuous curves and odd shapes. Um, so there's a gentleman named Adam Atlante, who a few years ago he was actually using ceremonial models to develop combative expressions of these more ceremonial style swords. So he'd take a blade that was, he would measure the distal taper and the blade profile and determine whether or not it was a blade that was combat made for combat, and then he would take that shape and then reconfigure it based on what it would need to be as far as distal taper and blade profile in order to be like a combat tool. And he's kind of felt, I don't know where Adam is now. Adam, if you're watching this, if anyone knows Adam Atlante, please put him in contact with me, because right now we could really use your sword making skills. But anyhow, so he had really interesting theories about like why a lot of African swords, especially those found like in the 19th century, are poor quality, or not combat blades. And there is a I don't know the article. I have to look it up, and I'll try to post this information onto this video as well, where he talks about his transformation and his study, and theories of as to why um, African blades. There's a question of functionality of them, which pretty much he's if I remember correctly, he's attributing to colonialism and kind of the lack of the knowledge of lack of the lost knowledge of creating combat ready blades by various groups of people that were encountered by Europeans. That the information was eventually lost, and then the models that we have left are ones that were, there was no military function for them because they had ceased to, have a need for it at that time because they had been, conquered. Um, so I'll get the information so you guys can check that out. But going back to the Takouba, and just it kind of creates a lot of theories as to why this type of sword with the cross guard is like found like in West Africa and in East Africa, and it provokes a lot of thought as far as like connecting like cultures that are probably like connected in some way, but at the same time, some of the theories kind of deny like the basic human ingenuity that it's found in any culture, no matter where you're at. An effective blade form, I feel, could be wrong, is going to be fairly universal. A straight double-edged knife or sword is effective for the same reasons, say in Africa as it is in Europe or in Asia or anywhere else. Um, and sometimes when you find blades that are connected to that are similar in shape and form, it doesn't negate the fact that there was probably I should say it doesn't mean that the native people weren't able of creating the sword of their own. I mean, if you look at spears, if you think about like this the the progression from a handheld weapon to a spear becoming a sword in certain situations, like it's not a small leap to go from a broad bladed long spearhead to a short sword to a longer sword. And so it's I guess I'm kind of giving you I'm going back before I go forward. One theory, a couple of theories is also like when there's been questions about why the Tuareg use these types of swords, and some people theorize that well, I have a Facebook friend that thought that maybe the Tuareg swords were descendant of um, early German swords when the Vandals had conquered North Africa. This gentleman felt that like perhaps they had picked up this sword design, and then I know in the Sudan, many people thought that the broadswords were copied from Crusader swords. Um, so I think that these blades reflect a similar blade type that was possibly found there beforehand. And at some point, it became a lot easier for them to import raw blades from Europe or from the Middle East into the area. And this is another thing that's covered in Adam's paper. Is like another thing that we have to understand about swords in Africa is that, well, at least in that south of the Sahara, north of the forest area from the Sahel and Sudan across from west to east, that certain areas it wasn't the best conditions for sword making on a large scale. Though it wasn't heavily forested, there were poor iron ore. Some areas had really poor iron ore. Some areas had pretty decent iron ore. So those factors kind of contributed to the importing of foreign blades from like Europe, specifically in Germany, and then of course like in the Middle East. It's not to say that natives in this area couldn't make decent swords. It's just it was more cost effective in some regards to import them in, and the quality was better because they had access to the things that I had mentioned that were missing in that area at the time. Some people may take exception to what I just said, but I believe that's the at least the case for this part of Africa, and explains why trade blades were pretty common in the area. And this was, German or European blades were being imported in, before the 19th century. And, like I said, with this Takouba here, this blade is definitely, it's a European blade that's been remounted in a native style. And that was common. But also local smiths were able to create blades that were somewhat comparable. It didn't happen all the time. It didn't. Hey, Sochi.
Are you laughing?
I'm not laughing. I'm on a video chat right now that's being broadcast live. Okay, that was my little one there. Yeah, lost my train of thought. Anyhow, yeah, they were capable of making blades that were comparable, but it wasn't as consistent as getting blades from across the Mediterranean, across the Indian Ocean. But there have been local made swords that were somewhat indistinguishable from some of the European blades. Just to give you an idea, it just wasn't as consistent as what was being produced in Europe and in the Middle East at the time. Anyhow, so speaking about Takouba, so Takouba is our basic tool, our main weapon, our main area of focus. And even though like the Mbele videos are more popular and it attracts more attention to what we're doing, because it's like, wow, this is definitely an African blade. And it's like the shape of the blade lends itself so easily to reconstruction, because there's only certain ways that you can use it that's effective. But like as far as the Mbele is concerned, that's more of a secondary thing we do for fun and just to experiment with the blade design. The Takouba, we have more information about, how the swords were held, how they were swung, specific footwork that goes along with it. So we have a little bit more information as far as like for reconstruction with the Takouba as opposed to with the Mbele, which is very, very dependent upon the design. The information that I was presented is based on the design of the blade. And it's fun coming across that kind of stuff, but I don't want you to think that it necessarily the information that I was presenting in the first video was like I had gone to the village and learned that this is how you use the Mbele, the blade itself, the techniques were pretty intuitive from the design of the blade itself. So yeah, so like I said, Mbele, Chotel, those are kind of gray areas as far as reconstruction are concerned, and as far as like having that data outside of the shape of the blade itself. I mean, we're still constantly looking, and if we come across someone who is, you know, preserving that tradition of Mbele fighting or preserving the traditional Chotel fighting, we'll definitely, integrate that information in. But like I said, our main thing is the Takouba, and the sickle blades are kind of more of a secondary thing that we kind of explore when we have time to. With that being said, let's get on to the meat of this. We'll start wrapping this up a little bit. Thank you guys for kind of hanging out. So here is our two standard our standard Takouba trainers. And since we are at the 3,000 mark of subscribers, I wanted to do two giveaways this time. One giveaway is going to be for our YouTube supporters, and our second giveaway is going to be for our Patreon supporters. So YouTube supporters, you guys know how it goes. You guys, please subscribe to the channel. You have to be a subscriber, and you don't have to like it. Please leave a comment. Hopefully it's a nice comment. If not, we'll still include you. But like, yeah, be a subscriber and leave a comment on the on this video. And what I'll do at the end of the week, we'll draw a name, and that person will, get this sent to them. If you happen to be outside the United States, I'm not capable of, it's pretty expensive shipping outside of the country right now, but I'm willing to. We could either do half the shipping, or I can give you an Amazon gift card instead of, if you happen to be in Europe or somewhere else. Okay, so YouTube guys and gals, you know how it goes. Like I said, be a subscriber, leave a comment. End of the week, I'll draw names, and then I'll send this off to you. If you happen to be outside the country, then we can do half of shipping, or I can do an Amazon gift card. Patreon supporters, since there's not a lot of you guys, I'm just going to take your names and do the same thing. You don't have to leave a comment. It would be nice if you did leave a comment. It would be nice if you were a subscriber, but I think you guys most of you probably are. And yeah, I'll just draw your name, and at the end of the week, I'll announce it and send it off to you. Anyways, I think I covered most of my points. Oh yeah, no, I think I got everything that I wanted to cover in this last video. I'm not sure where I'm at as far as time. I think I'm right at that cutoff point. I wanted to wrap up by saying that we are, raising the banners. If you're interested in being a part of HAMA, historical African martial arts, this community, we invite you to start a study group in your area. Let me know what I can do to help facilitate that, whether it's coming to your city to teach classes, or you coming to Austin to come train with us, or putting up more instructional videos on YouTube for you guys to kind of, integrate it into your to what you're already doing. Let me know. Would love to help out, and would love to see this community grow larger outside of the Austin area. And thank you guys for sitting through all this. I think I covered about everything. If not, then I'll probably just make another one, and this was kind of fun, so maybe I'll do it again next time we reach a milestone. So yep, thank you, and I will see you all soon. Train hard, be careful, and peace.